For 12 years patrolling the Loxa River corridor, the officer had seen every kind of wildlife collision imaginable. Elk tearing vehicles apart, bears bouncing off steel bumpers, clear biological remains, and predictable impact patterns. That was why what happened that night at mile marker 88 did not fit any known accident reconstruction model. When he arrived at the scene, the blue lights of his patrol vehicle illuminated a late-model Dodge Ram 2500 smoking on the shoulder of the road. The driver, Samuel Kovic, was sitting on the guardrail, shaking uncontrollably despite the warm night. He was not physically injured, but was clearly in shock, repeating the same phrase over and over. He had hit something at high speed, and it had stood up. The officer examined the truck. The front end was completely destroyed. The radiator had been driven back into the engine block, forming a deep V-shaped collapse. What disturbed him was not only the severity of the damage, but the height of the impact point. It did not match an elk or any four-legged animal. The primary impact was more than a meter off the ground, as if the truck had struck something upright, solid, and extremely dense. Among the twisted metal, he found clumps of long, thick black hair with a greasy texture, unlike the hollow fur of deer. There was a large amount of blood, but it was not sprayed. It formed a heavy, continuous trail leading toward the wooded embankment. He ordered the driver to remain where he was and followed the trail down the slope, armed with a flashlight and a shotgun, expecting to encounter a severely wounded bear. He followed the blood for about 10 meters until the drag marks stopped. There were no four-legged tracks. Instead, along the riverbank, clear impressions appeared in the soft mud, plantigrade footprints resembling bare human feet but grotesquely large, with an oversized, widely separated big toe. The depth of the prints suggested a weight well over 250 kilograms. That was when he heard the breathing. It was not an animal growl, but a wet, gurgling cough, disturbingly human, like someone with a punctured lung. About 30 meters away, among the cedars, something was crouched near the water. When he briefly illuminated it, he saw a massive back covered in dark hair soaked with blood. The creature was pressing one hand against its side, as if consciously trying to stop the bleeding. When it turned its head, there was no snout, only a flat, grayish face with a broad nose and deep-set eyes that did not reflect the light. They were intelligent eyes, filled with pain and restrained tension. The being slowly stood, rising well over 2 meters tall, and took a single step forward, not attacking, but making it clear that it held the advantage. The officer switched off the flashlight and backed away without turning his back. In the official report, he recorded a collision with an elk that fled the scene. He had the truck washed before any forensic analysis could be performed. There are things in those woods, he concluded, that no administrative system is equipped to process.
The document consists of an immediate and irrevocable resignation submitted by a veteran member of the Search and Rescue Unit, fully aware that this decision places his state pension at risk after 20 years of service. The reason is neither administrative nor personal, but an incident that occurred the previous day in a forested area known as Devil's Elbow, a location the signer states he will never enter again. His dog Bruno, a bloodhound with extensive experience in complex tracking operations, had to be sedated by a veterinarian and has remained in a constant state of trembling since the event. In the preliminary report submitted to the department, the agent attributed the termination of the operation to unsafe terrain conditions, now acknowledging that this was a deliberate falsehood intended to protect the institution. What follows, he states, is the sworn truth. At 1600 hours, Bruno clearly picked up the scent of a missing child, leading toward a granite ridge avoided by locals. 2 kilometers from the planned extraction zone, the dog's behavior changed abruptly and alarmingly. He did not lose the trail, but refused to continue. He sat down, tucked his tail, and began to whimper while staring upward into the treetops. The agent emphasizes that a tracking dog only looks up when the perceived threat is not on the ground. Shortly thereafter, another anomaly was discovered. The child's blue sneaker was found carefully placed on a fallen log at eye level. There were no signs that had been dropped or lost. The object appeared to have been deliberately displayed. While examining the sneaker, the agent felt a static pressure in the air, similar to the sensation preceding an electrical storm. He then used his FLIR thermal monocular to scan the dense foliage, expecting to locate the child's heat signature. What appeared on the thermal display did not correspond to any known form of wildlife. Approximately 50 meters away, between two fir trees, an immense heat signature was visible, far larger than that of any grizzly bear the agent had ever encountered. The figure was crouched, yet even so exceeded all known size references. Most disturbing was the heat distribution. The head and torso radiated intense heat, while the limbs were cold and nearly invisible, as if the organism could selectively regulate its body temperature for concealment. When the agent lowered the thermal viewer, nothing was visible to the naked eye, only shadows and branches. Looking again through the device, the figure remained, watching him. It then raised an arm and pointed toward a deep ravine to the agent's left. At that moment, Bruno snapped his leash and fled back toward the vehicle, an unprecedented reaction. Seconds later, a rock roughly the size of a basketball struck the exact spot where the agent had been standing moments earlier, thrown horizontally from the undergrowth. The agent concludes that this was not a standard search operation, but a deliberate attempt to herd the team into an ambush, using the child and his shoe as bait. The child was recovered several hours later, unharmed, near a roadway. He stated that a big, hairy man had carried him on his back and left him there. The child smelled strongly of rancid musk and wet earth. The signer states that he cannot protect his team from an entity possessing tactical intelligence and biological camouflage, and leaves his badge and unit keys on the sheriff's desk.
The first indication that something was wrong was the silence. Elias Thorne, a timber appraiser with 15 years of experience in the Idaho corridor, knew by heart the sounds of a healthy forest: insects, squirrels, birds. Yet in Sector 4, an old-growth area near the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness, there was nothing. The air was motionless, as if the environment itself had absorbed all sound. At 1445, Elias found evidence that this was not a simple environmental anomaly. The orange marking tape he had tied an hour earlier to define his transect was no longer hanging from the branch. Instead, it had been carefully stacked in the middle of a deer trail. The knot was still intact. The branch had not been cut, it had been twisted and torn off with extreme force, exposing fresh white wood fibers. This was neither human vandalism nor normal animal behavior. It was a warning. Shortly after, Elias noticed a dense, nauseating smell that did not arrive on the wind but seemed to emanate from the surroundings themselves. A mixture of metallic copper, rancid musk, and decomposing organic matter triggered immediate gagging and an instinctive surge of alarm. When he called out, a figure separated itself from the shadows about 40 meters away. It was not a bear. The silhouette was vertical and massive, with no visible neck, disproportionately broad shoulders, and a slow, deliberate swaying motion. Its dark fur resembled wet charcoal. Elias automatically calculated its height. Its head brushed a branch more than 2.5 meters above the ground. The creature emitted a sound that was not heard but felt, a low vibration that rattled his chest and teeth, inducing immediate biological panic. As Elias reached for his bear spray, the creature reacted, lowering its unnaturally long arms and charging.
There was no roar, only destruction. Vegetation snapped under each footfall. The rhythm was bipedal, fast, and impossible. Elias discharged the spray, but the dead air and the creature's speed rendered it useless. He ran blindly, abandoning his equipment, hearing something massive breaking thick branches just meters behind him. This was not a predatory pursuit, it was a territorial expulsion. The chase ended abruptly at a creek. Exhausted, Elias turned and saw the entity standing on the opposite bank, halted by the water as if by an invisible boundary. It watched him without emotion. Its eyes were completely black, with no visible sclera. Then it picked up 2 stones from the creek and began striking them together rhythmically without breaking eye contact. A deliberate, intelligent gesture, a clear message: do not return. Elias Thorne walked 10 kilometers back to his truck. He never worked in the forest again.
This is not the report I typed for the sheriff. That version states that the boy, Cody Miller, died from exposure and hypothermia after becoming separated from his parents. That version is a necessary lie to maintain public peace. This is the truth that will remain in this safe. The search had been going on for 3 days. The dogs had lost the trail at the edge of Avery Canyon, refusing to move forward. They whimpered with their tails tucked between their legs, behavior I had never seen in trained hounds. I decided to continue alone, following an unnatural break in the tree line. There were no birds. The forest was sunk in that heavy silence that precedes a storm, even though the sky was clear. At 4:30 p.m., I found the boy's jacket. It wasn't on the ground. It was hanging from a ponderosa pine branch nearly 5 meters off the ground. There were no claw marks on the bark, which implied that something had climbed or reached that height with disturbing ease. Then I caught the smell. A stench of copper, ozone, and wet fur that turned my stomach. When I turned, I saw it. 30 meters away, camouflaged against a fallen log, something rose to its feet. The scale of the creature defied logic. As it stood, it blocked the late afternoon light. It was not a bear. The anatomy was undeniably bipedal, with shoulders twice the width of a man's and arms that hung to its knees. The most terrifying thing wasn't its size, but its stillness. It didn't growl, it didn't charge, it simply watched me. I could see the exhalation of its breath in the cold air and the intelligent, calculating glint in eyes set deep beneath a bony brow ridge. It was holding something in its right hand, a gutted mule deer with the same indifference one might hold an apple. I raised my rifle, but my survival instincts screamed primal warning. If you shoot and miss, or if you shoot and don't kill it, you are a dead man. The creature tilted its head, emitting a guttural clicking sound like rocks knocking together underwater. Then it took a step back and dissolved into the undergrowth with an impossible silence for an animal weighing 300 kilograms. It let me go. It was allowing me to leave its territory. We found the boy's body the next day, 2 kilometers from there. He had no signs of violence, but he was carefully placed on a bed of ferns, far from where he had gone missing. Whatever lives in St. Joe is not a wild animal. It is something territorial, intelligent, and ancient, and we are the intruders.